These three youngsters had taken a new kind of a drug and they started hallucinating and seeing zombies everywhere. One of those kids started banging his head on the wall and died because of it. Now, when we started to investigate, we realized that how it worked was you would go to a coffee shop where a youngster would be there, you would give him some cash. He would then convert that into something called Bitcoin, which I had never heard of before that. A regular book would land up at your house through a courier company. You would open it up to page 86, tear the page out, cut it into small pieces and take one of those pieces of paper and put it on your tongue. And the drug would take effect. Chemical drugs, they're colorless, tasteless, odorless. Even a police dog cannot sniff them. How much would you pay for this?
Currently 1 rupee.
I'll pay 10. Who gives it this value?
Perception.
I'm ready to give it a value of 10. Somebody else may give you 20 for it. What you want to collect, right?
Yeah.
Similarly, when it comes to cryptocurrencies, it's based on demand and supply.
If I put something on the internet, I believe it's there forever. Namaste and welcome to this episode of the OddCast Show. Today we will be discussing odd questions such as what is this hype around Bitcoin? Why are so many people losing money in Bitcoin? And did you know that there is a place in India where even the RBI has no jurisdiction? Let's find out with Rohas Nagpal ji.
Welcome to the show, Ji. How are you doing?
Absolutely fine. Thank you for inviting me.
Most welcome. It's a pleasure to have you here. And this is something that, very intriguing to our minds, learning about cryptocurrencies, etc. Because we are generally used to, parting with cash or, now with the digital revolution in India with UPI, etc. So the idea of this episode is to try and, get info on odd currencies and cryptocurrencies like what you are dealing in. The first question I had is that, as I understand, you were majorly into cybersecurity at a time of your life. And one day you finally decided to switch towards cryptocurrencies and blockchain architecture. So what happened there? Why?
So this was about way back in 2011 when I was helping one of the law enforcement agencies investigating a case of the drug mafia using Bitcoin for payments. Now, honestly, I'd never heard of the word Bitcoin before that. So what the case was that these three youngsters had taken a new kind of a drug and they started hallucinating and seeing zombies everywhere. One of those kids started banging his head on the wall and died because of it.
Really?
It was pretty shocking. So the police wanted to know what is this new kind of drug which is giving people such hallucinations.
Right.
Now, when we started to investigate, we realized that how it worked was you would go to a coffee shop where a youngster would be there. You would give him some cash. He would then convert that into something called Bitcoin, which I had never heard of before that. And then he would give you a number, say 86. Now you go home. A few days later, a book could land up, a regular book would land up at your house through a courier company. You would open it up to page 86, tear the page out, cut it into small pieces and take one of those pieces of paper and put it on your tongue. And the drug would take effect.
Oh.
So these were these synthetic drugs, chemical drugs. They're colorless, tasteless, odorless. Even a police dog cannot sniff them. So it's like a glass of water. You dip a brush in it, put that on the page, let it dry out and you start selling your drugs. And the payment was taken through Bitcoin. So this is what got me introduced to the whole concept.
And this was where? In India?
No, it was not in India.
Okay, this was some other country.
Some other country, yes.
Which you don't want to tell us about. Okay.
So that is how I got introduced to it. And then over the next few years, I spent a lot of time learning more about Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies and the tech behind it. And in about 2015, I felt this is the future. So that is when I sold off my cyber business and I moved fully into the blockchain and crypto space.
So, sir, since you mentioned that you had never even heard this word Bitcoin, please tell us what is the difference between Bitcoin as a cryptocurrency versus blockchain technology?
So now let's take a simple example. I'm sure you use WhatsApp and Instagram. What is the tech that runs it? You probably don't know and you probably don't care. Like which database it uses or which programming language. Similarly, blockchain is the name of a technology.
Okay.
So it's a very innovative technology which uses a lot of things like cryptography. In fact, cryptocurrency word comes from cryptography, which is the science of encoding and decoding data. So the first thing that I want everyone to understand is blockchain is the name of a technology. And if you're not a techie, forget about it.
Okay.
It's just a tech. Now on that tech, cryptocurrencies is a use case or a creation.
Okay.
So it is some kind of a digital currency. We'll go deeper into that. And this was born with the Bitcoin white paper written by somebody called Satoshi Nakamoto. We don't know who he is. It could be an individual. It could be a group of people. It could even be artificial intelligence who wrote it. We don't really know who did it.
It could be a fake name either also.
Could be a pseudonym. Could be anything. Absolutely. Now, what that paper laid out was a purely decentralized, peer-to-peer electronic cash. That's the basic definition of what Bitcoin is. So when we look at the real world, we have currency notes, right? Now, in fact, a lot of people, everybody, we spend our whole lives running behind money, but there's a very basic distinction most of us don't understand. Like, for example, when we look at this, and I ask you a question, is this 500 rupees? What's your answer going to be?
Typically, yes.
But it's not. And I'll prove it to you. It has a promise here. Who's signed the promise? The governor of the Reserve Bank. What does it say? I promise to pay the bearer the sum of 500 rupees.
Yeah.
So my question is, if this is 500, why is he promising to pay it to you? Now, if you go to the RBI governor and say, take back this and give me 500 rupees, what do you think he'll give you? A lot of people say he'll give me gold or silver, which is not really true. He'll probably give you 1 rupee notes. Of course, in reality, he'll probably throw you out of his office. But if you look at a 1 rupee note, it's not signed by the RBI governor. It's signed by the Secretary, Ministry of Finance. And this doesn't say that this is a promise. So technically, this becomes rupee and this becomes a promissory note exchangeable for this. Hence, if you remember that the Indian currency, certain notes were demonetized. Now, how can you demonetize, for example? So suppose if I was using gold as a currency, can anybody say gold is demonetized? No, as long as people trust in gold, for whatever reason, you cannot demonetize gold because it has value in itself. Currency does not have value in itself. I mean, if you go into another country, they may not even accept your currency.
Right.
So that is a very important distinction for us to understand. Now, today's world is ruled by these kind of currencies. Governments issue them and people like you and me use it. Now, because of technology, it's even become electronic in nature, where it's not even printed anymore. But another question that we need to understand is, it's valid as long as people recognize it, the government issues it, and there is a value attached to it. Now, there are countries like Venezuela and all where the currencies have fallen by huge amounts. Inflation regularly eats into all this. So the person who wrote the Bitcoin paper, or the group of people who wrote it, they said, let's come out with a new system of money which does not involve a bank or a government. People like you and me can run that system. Now, before the Bitcoin white paper, this was not possible because we did not have the technology to do it. Correct. The guy who wrote the paper, he said, let's use certain existing technologies, hash functions, digital signatures, and proof of work, put it all together in an innovative fashion. Anybody in the world can run a node, which is basically a computer. In the earlier days, it could be a laptop. Today, it needs to be a slightly powerful server. Now, anybody running that node is basically going to run some software, and every 10 minutes, it is going to try to crack a mathematical problem. So there are complicated mathematical problems. Every 10 minutes, all the Bitcoin transactions happening in the world are put into a place called a memory pool. Then these miners, they start attacking that with their computational power and try to solve it. The first person to correctly solve it and broadcast his solution on that network gets paid a reward. When Bitcoin first started, that reward was 50 Bitcoin per block, which meant every 10 minutes, somebody was making 50 Bitcoin. After 4 years, it became 25, then 12.5. Currently, it's 6.25. This halving happens every 4 years, will continue to happen till the year 2140 AD, which is like more than 100 years to go. At that time, the new Bitcoins created per block will become 0, and the total number of Bitcoins in the world will be 21 million. That is why we say there is no inflation in Bitcoin, because no new Bitcoins can be created beyond that 21 million. And like I said, every 10 minutes, somebody is solving that problem. Now that somebody could be people like you and me. Yes. So when Bitcoin was very new, even I mined some. And at that time, used to get a reward of 50 Bitcoins. Unfortunately, I deleted my Bitcoins. Because at that time, I didn't realize that it would be so valuable in the future.
There are certain stories like this that I hear on Instagram. I don't know how authentic they are.
Yeah, there are a lot of unfortunate people like me who didn't realize that Bitcoin would become very valuable. Because at that time, it was worth virtually nothing. Right. In fact, the first recorded price of Bitcoin was $1 for 1,300 Bitcoins. Do you get it? How cheap it was? So we never took it seriously at that time.
Correct.
But there's one thing I need to understand. What do we mean by deleted a Bitcoin? Now, your Bitcoin is not like a typical currency lying in your wallet. It's lying on a network called the blockchain network. What you have are private keys which control addresses on that. Just like you have a bank account, you have a password to access that bank account. But if you lose the password, the bank can reset it for you.
Correct.
But because in blockchain, there are no banks, there are no central agencies, nobody can reset it for you. So if I delete that private key, I lose control over the Bitcoin. So today, I can also go to the Bitcoin blockchain and see my currency lying there in an address. But I don't have the private key to control it. So I can't move it out. So for all effective purposes, it's lost. And millions of Bitcoins are believed to have been lost like this.
So Bitcoin is a cryptocurrency.
It's a cryptocurrency.
So what is then Dogecoin or Memecoin?
Very good.
They're all the same.
Okay, so if you look at how the history evolved, first there was just one Bitcoin. Then sometime later people realized, you know what, we can fork this or copy the code, make some changes and come out with newer currencies. So somebody came out with something called Litecoin, which still runs, is fairly popular. They basically took Bitcoin and multiplied everything by 4. So, you know, the maximum number could be 4 times, like 21 million ka 4 times ho jayega. So somebody came with that. Somebody else came out with the concept that the Bitcoin software is not good enough. We need to make some changes. So they recommended the change. Now, many people said, okay, it's a good change. Some said no. Now that created the world's first fork, where Bitcoin actually broke into 2. The people who believed that we need a better software moved it on to something called Bitcoin Cash.
Right.
And those who believe, no, the existing one is good enough, continued mining it as Bitcoin. So at that point, the software broke into 2. If you had 10 Bitcoins, you got 10 Bitcoin Cash for free. And a new currency was born. So like this, over a period of time, lots of new currencies have come in. Then, few years later, somebody came out with the concept of, how about a blockchain platform which has smart contracts, which basically means a contract which runs on itself. And that's how Ethereum was born. And that was another very big game changer. So Ethereum can be considered to be a digital highway. Like, you know, between Pune and Bombay, you have a physical highway, trucks go on it, and every time you travel, you have to pay a toll. That's what maintains the whole thing. And because of that highway, trade and commerce happens.
Right.
Similarly, Ethereum is a digital highway. Anybody who wants to use it pays using Ether, which is the native currency of Ethereum. So a new currency comes in called ETH or Ether. And that is used to run your smart contracts. Every time you want to do any transaction, you pay gas fee. Just like in the real world, we pay for petrol, we call it gas fee here. So a new currency called Ethereum was born. But that created another very interesting problem. One guy came out with the concept of a DAO, decentralized autonomous organization. Just like a mutual fund, people pool money and somebody decides what to do with the money.
Right.
He said, let's make a digital mutual fund. People pool in the money and they vote what to do with that money. So we'll invest as a group. Now, unfortunately, the coding of that was a little poor and somebody hacked it and took out about $150 million worth of ETH. Now, at that time, a very interesting solution was proposed. Some people said, let's roll back the Ethereum blockchain to remove those transactions. The others said, you cannot do that. Blockchains are supposed to be immutable. You are not supposed to change anything. Again, there was a dispute and Ethereum broke into 2 and a hard fork happened. Just the way the Bitcoin hard fork we spoke about, Ethereum broke into 2. One called ETH, which is the popular one today, and the other called ETC, which is Ethereum Classic, the one which did not roll back the transactions. So again, that interesting development.
So basically, there are 2 digital highways now available.
Actually, now there are hundreds. So after Ethereum success, many other people came in. Somebody brought in Solana, somebody brought in Polkadot. Like this, tons of them have come in. But yeah, Ethereum remains the most popular.
I mean, I'm a little confused here. I'm a little old school here. So I just want to understand that what you're saying here is that anyone can come up with a digital currency now. Who's regulating all this? How are exchange rates coming into this? How do you buy like today, if I want to buy a Bitcoin, I have to pay physical currency, right, to buy it. So how does this whole process work?
Sure. So first of all, as of right now, we don't have much regulations. Like for example, in India, all cryptocurrencies except Bitcoin come under the definition of a virtual digital asset under the Income Tax Act. And you pay 30% tax on your profits and there is no offset for losses. Now, why did I say other than Bitcoin? Because Bitcoin is now not a cryptocurrency. It's actually the legal tender of 2 countries in the world, El Salvador and the Central African Republic. So 2 sovereign nations have declared Bitcoin to be their legal tender, which puts Bitcoin under the category of foreign exchange. Just like the way we recognize the US dollar, the Indian rupee, Bitcoin is recognized as currency in 2 countries. So everything else is regulated as a virtual digital asset. Bitcoin comes under foreign exchange. Some countries like Dubai and Japan have come out with laws and they're trying to regulate crypto, and they're actually quite successful at it. So, they regulate the crypto exchanges, which you can use to easily buy and sell your crypto. So coming back to your question, yes, anybody can start their own project, but the project should pick up traction. Now let's talk about something like Dogecoin. A lot of people hear about it. So many years ago, an Adobe Australia employee one day tweeted as a joke, I'm going to create my own currency called around a dog. So a lot of people told him, why don't you start? So he took the Bitcoin core, made some variations, and he launched Dogecoin. But it didn't really get much traction, and he sold it off for like a few $1,000s. Few years later, some random TikTok influencers started talking about Dogecoin, and the value started going up. And then one fine day, Elon Musk started talking about Dogecoin. Now, as you know, Elon Musk is the world's most powerful social media influencer.
Right.
The moment he started talking about Doge and the fact that one day they will accept Doge to buy and sell Tesla cars or merchandise, that really took the value up. And Dogecoin is today worth several $1 billion in terms of market cap. Now, Dogecoin is named after a particular kind of a dog species called Shiba Inu.
Right.
Now, once Dogecoin became popular, somebody took Shiba Inu photo and said, okay, this is a new meme coin called SHIB, S-H-I-B. Then sometime later, one guy came and said, I have put the cap on the dog. And they actually took the photo of a dog and put a woolen cap on his head and started a new cryptocurrency, a meme coin. So like this now, newer meme coins keep coming up. Like right now, there's something called PEPE. I'm never sure how to pronounce that word. But that's another one that's suddenly beginning to pick up traction and it's become worth billions. Now, a lot of people say that this concept is stupid. Why do we believe in meme coins? But I have a logic here. A lot of people drink energy drinks. I don't want to name brands, but you know what I'm talking about, right?
Right.
Why do people drink that? I mean, everybody knows it's a bunch of chemicals. It's really harmful for your body. Why do people drink it?
No idea. I mean, like to what? Is it marketed well, or that
Human nature.
Is it associated
what human beings do?
It's associated with energy levels, and that's why you think that
There are
under
a
the
variety of
exception.
reasons for that.
So just like human beings can voluntarily drink billions of dollars worth of these chemicals, human beings have the right to now voluntarily buy and trade in these meme coins. They are about as silly as an energy drink would be. But because there are a lot of people who like it, and this is all driven by community. And let me be honest, even the stock market runs like that. Every asset in the world runs because there is a community of people. Like I could look at a diamond and say, what stupidity is this? It's just a piece of shiny rock. But enough people in the world believe that it's a very valuable piece of rock, so diamonds are very expensive. Same thing for gold. What is it? A shiny metal. But because a lot of people like that shiny metal, gold gets value. Similarly, a cryptocurrency, which has a big community, becomes valuable because the community believes in it.
Right. So there's a question I have here. During COVID, there was a very popular meme that was circulated regarding Bitcoin, where there's a man in a bar with 4 women, and they're asking him what does he do, and he says that I own $1 million worth of Bitcoin. And she says, oh cool, you want to buy us some drinks? He said, oh no, I don't have any real money. Please explain.
Sure. So now what we mean by real money is something that people would take on the, in a normal restaurant or shop, and you could
Which would be acceptable, right?
Which would be acceptable. But I hear you'll be surprised to know Bitcoin is accepted in a lot of countries. Like if you go to, a lot of European countries, you can get a cab with it. You can pay in a restaurant for it. Even barbers will accept it.
But how are they physical? Like coin? What is?
Just like today, UPI is not physical anymore.
Right.
You scan a QR code.
Right.
Cryptocurrencies work like that. You scan a QR code and you can pay. So you have your wallet in your phone. It's an app, and there are certain cryptos that you own. You have the private key. So when you scan a QR code, you can sign that transaction digitally and transfer it to someone else's address. So I walk into a shop, scan his QR code and transfer the money, just like you do for UPI. So different cryptos are accepted in different places. So when El Salvador made Bitcoin legal tender, you can walk into a burger joint there and buy a burger using Bitcoin.
But how is that affecting the economics of an entire region? Because when people say cryptocurrency, they say that the way it operates in terms of volatility, it defeats the purpose of the word currency. Because like I was telling you before the episode also, that if I have, say, $400 worth of some cryptocurrency, by the time I figure out how to cash it out and buy a cup of tea, it's dropped to like $5. So what are your thoughts on that?
Now let's go back to the gold example. Yeah. Gold initially started as a medium of exchange, right? Where you could pay for stuff and buy it using gold. Correct. But then it moved into a store of value. Today, what is gold? Store of value. You lock it up for 100 years, and the logic is its value will keep appreciating.
Right.
Now, Bitcoin started as a currency like gold, but it turned into a store of value. So a lot of people today believe that Bitcoin will keep getting more valuable. So somebody says it'll become $1 million each. Somebody says something else. So it's become a store of value, which is why you actually don't use it for payments anymore. You would rather use a Dogecoin or some other such crypto. But you're quite right. Because of its volatility, a lot of people don't like to use Bitcoin for payments. They use others. So here I'd like to talk about an interesting one. So there's something called USDT. It's called Tether. It's a project run out of Hong Kong. So what happens is you pay them, like for example, in dollars through your bank account, you can pay Tether. They will issue you a cryptocurrency called USDT, whose value will always be $1. And you can use that as a normal medium of exchange. So suppose, I have a client in another country and I do some work for them. Now, one way is they pay me through the banking system, through SWIFT, but that takes a lot of time. There's a lot of charges for that. A quicker way is I will tell them, this is my USDT address on a blockchain, transfer some USDT to it, and then I will sell it off to someone else. So now things like those are called stable coins. Why stable? Because their value is linked to some currency. For example, the dollar or the yen or the Singapore dollar or the euro. And we can use those for payments.
I'm very confused right now, to be honest. I just need to
I was hoping to solve your confusions by now.
No, in fact, I'm getting more confused with the answer because now I'm trying to get into that. If anyone can start a digital currency, like you're saying, and build a community, that is, if the community accepts it and he or she who starts this digital currency makes it. What's the legality here? What's the regulatory bodies out here? Who's cross-checking this? Because this can be misused in so many ways, right?
Sure. Now, that's a very good point of misuse. But now I have a question for you. Has money laundering been existing for hundreds of years?
It's always been there.
Yeah. Crime has been existing for... Okay. Now, what do these guys do? So suppose there are some organized criminals or there are terrorists. They could use AK-47s as a medium of exchange. They could use cocaine, heroin as a medium of exchange. They could use gold or silver. They can also use cryptocurrency. But cryptocurrencies are very traceable. Every single transaction in any cryptocurrency gets logged onto the technology platform called blockchain. Years later also you could log in and see the transaction. The only difference is you will not see people's names, you will see addresses. But when the police catches a criminal and they get to know his address, they get to know all his past transactions. That level of transparency is not there in gold or cocaine or anything else. So I would say it is actually more difficult to use cryptocurrencies for crime than it is to use regular assets.
Let's talk a little bit about traceability. Since you have brought up the example of physical notes, for example, if you pay me that 1 rupee note right now for whatever reason and I give it to him, I am only aware of you two. I am not aware of who had that note before you and who gets the note after him. Whether I remember you two or not, that's a different matter. How different does blockchain technology work in terms of security with regard to this aspect? Is it any different? How is it?
Very good question. So now blockchain uses, in India, for example, we have digital signatures as a legal concept.
Yeah.
When you file your income tax returns online, you digitally sign them.
Correct.
So way back in the year 2000, the Indian government made a law called the Information Technology Act, which legally recognized digital signatures and hash functions. Blockchain uses those same technologies. So these are very tried and tested mathematical concepts, which have been converted into hard technology called cryptography. And the level of security it offers is amongst the highest. I'm not saying it cannot be hacked. You'll be surprised to know, but Bitcoin has also been hacked in the past.
Yes, I've heard.
Like several years ago, somebody came out with a way and they manipulated it and they issued 21 billion Bitcoins, whereas it was never supposed to go above 21 million.
Correct.
But then the community fixed it. So anything that is made by a human being can be cracked by another human being. But compared to other techs, I would say blockchain is amongst the most secure.
No, why would the creator of Bitcoin stop at 21 million coins? Like, what's the logic here? Why can't he just go exponentially? Say it'll just keep growing and
then
keep
it would not have solved the basic problem that he was trying to solve. He was trying to say that when we look at regular currency, it's unlimited. There's no limit on how much the governments print. You don't even back it by gold anymore. At one time, currencies were backed by gold.
It was pegged to gold.
It was pegged to gold. Then in 1971, 15th August, if I'm not mistaken, the US President Nixon said, no longer will be backed by gold and you cannot exchange US dollar for gold, etc. with us. After that, there's no rule on who prints how much. So what the Bitcoin guy said is, this currency will not be like that. It will be fixed. Everything is known. Every approximately 10 minutes, how much is being issued, total how much will be issued, all that is fixed by the code. by the algorithm. And that's what gave it that value.
But which brings me to the next question, that let's say today if I want to start a new cryptocurrency, I let's say I call it the OddCoin. I'm saying I'm starting OddCoin today and I'm going to spread it in the community that we have right now. Do I need to fix that limit, or can I just go unlimited and say I just want to do, I just keep
there are
having
many, like
altcoins?
Dogecoin has no limit. Initially it had a limit, later they changed the software, now it has no limit.
So then it becomes similar to the regular currency.
Which is why Dogecoin is not worth so much in terms of per Doge. It'll be 0 point something. Shiba Inu will be 0.000 something.
But
a lot
how-
of meme coins are like that.
But how do these coins, these cryptocurrencies get valued? And the
Very
second
good.
question I have on that is that apart from the value, there's another thing that I wanted to understand. That let's say I'm sitting in India right now. I do some business with somebody in the US. I want to pay him in Bitcoins. He agrees to take Bitcoins from me. What about the exchange rates?
Good question. Again, I go back to this. How much would you pay for this?
Currently 1 rupee.
I'll pay 10.
Okay.
Now you'll say, why? I collect 1 rupee notes. You know, there are about 56 different 1 rupee notes that have been issued in India, and some of them are worth lakhs.
Right.
Why? Because there was a limited number and it's now become a collector's item. So whoever gave this to me, I'm ready to pay you double for this, or 10 for this if you want.
But you said lakhs, so you have to pay us a lakh for that.
This may not be worth that much. So like I said, there are about 56 different 1 rupee notes. Some of them are extremely rare because during the tenure of that RBI governor, fewer notes were issued.
Correct.
So my question is, who gives it this value?
It's
I'm
perception.
ready to give it a value of 10. Somebody else may give you 20 for it. So it's people, what you want to collect, right?
Yeah.
Similarly, when it comes to cryptocurrencies, it's based on demand and supply. So because there are people today ready to pay, say, $70,000 for a Bitcoin, it has a value of
So this answers the question that if there was no limit to how many Bitcoins were issued, then
the
it
value would automatically come down
Exactly.
because there's so many.
It's supply and demand.
Yeah. So now we know there are only 21 million. And because a larger number of people is interested and every day newer and newer people are entering that market,
Yeah.
the value goes up. And it's the same for, say, Colgate shares.
Right.
As more people enter the stock market, they say, oh, Colgate is a good company, making a good product. Its value will keep going up. Let me buy more shares of Colgate. As an example. So similarly, it's purely demand and supply. The real estate prices, they're not the same across the globe. There are some parts where the real estate is very valuable, somewhere it is very cheap. Who decides that? Again, demand and supply. So cryptocurrencies, like any other asset in the world, are driven by demand and supply.
Right.
So I would like to now tap into one aspect which was very popular for artists mainly, just regarding NFTs. To start off, what exactly is an NFT?
So NFT is a non fungible token. Now again, coming back to the same example, when we look at currencies,
Yeah.
so we say this 500 rupees. Is the one 500 rupee different from another one?
Not really.
In
If it is the
value?
old demonetized one, that is zero value.
Right.
Okay, that one. Yes.
But new ones, they are all the same. So
Yeah.
we say these are fungible, which means they are easily exchangeable for the other. There's no distinction between the two. Non-fungible means it's a unique token. So if I take a particular painting and I translate that into some kind of a digital version, and I say, okay, there is only one NFT which relates to this painting, then we can say it is unique. And that's what a non-fungible token means. But again, I'll be very honest with you. The way that started off, it was more hype, less value, which is why today most NFTs have completely lost their value. But the kind of NFTs that are beginning to make sense are collectibles. Digital collectibles which have a rarity. Just like the 1 rupee note, where I would be ready to pay more money for that 1 rupee note. If we can create these limited edition collectibles, you know, people used to collect baseball cards, you know, those kind of things.
Yeah, understood.
Why do they have value? Because a particular baseball card had less number of prints available.
Correct.
So people are now trying to create digital collectibles. And that could have value. But personally, I'm not very convinced.
What would a digital collectible be? Because again, like, you know, coming from old school, I'm just wondering, can I just take a picture of anyone and, you know, make it an NFT and then try and sell it? Like, what is...
People like you and me, we may find this concept very odd. But now let me ask you a question. Today, and I've been asking this question for more than 20 years. You have to give access to your worst enemy to either your home or your phone. What will you give it to?
None.
Never. दोनों में से एक तो आपको लेना ही पड़ेगा.
I'd give it to my phone. I don't care.
Okay, and you?
Currently, I'll give my home.
Now you see the difference here?
Right.
For a youngster, the phone is more valuable than the house. But for you and me, we may say, no, home is more valuable. No, why is it that the phone is more valuable to you?
See, right now, since we've spoken about the various mediums of doing things with the phone, it gives me much more power than having a home, right? With a with my phone, I control my entire life. I can get
See
my
that?
food, I can get my money, I can get my
Your secret WhatsApp messages, your Instagram DMs,
my papers.
all that comes in. So similarly for today's generation, digital world is more important. Now suppose he's got a very fancy collection, but he can't carry it physically around, right? But if he's got an NFT collection, he can show it to his people. So when he meets his friends, he can show his connection on the phone, which is where digital collectibles are beginning to become.
So this is where I have a question. Since you have a digital NFT of, say, a horse, for example, can I take a screenshot of that through someone else's account and sell that as something else? How does it
That's
work?
a good question. So it'll be easily detected that it is not authentic because you're supposed to have it in a wallet and all. Like you have DigiLocker today.
Yeah.
So documents in DigiLocker have value, but a document lying in your email will not have the same value.
Correct.
So similarly, NFTs are supposed to have more value because somebody says it's unique, but it's a very new field, so we'll have to still give it time. It's evolving.
How accurately is it detected? The screenshot.
Very easy to.
Okay.
Very
Okay.
easy to.
And I would love to go a little bit into the theory of this, of how it works. Because if I'm sending, people say that I'm sending you a photo of something, of say this setup on WhatsApp, but they have not actually sent you a photo, but they've sent you a copy of that photo. Is that what you're doing with Bitcoin and NFT, or is it an entirely different narrative?
Now, because Bitcoin doesn't exist outside of the chain,
Yeah.
you can't make copies of it and give it to people.
Okay.
Every time you want to show your balance also, you are actually querying an address on that blockchain
Right,
and saying,
right.
look, I have money there. And then you transfer it, it transfers in that network. It doesn't happen on your phone. Your phone merely contains the key. And by the way, you can write the key on a piece of paper. In fact, the most secure Bitcoin wallet is a piece of paper.
Because nobody can hack into it.
They have to physically come to your house to steal that paper. So you
That's
could,
why I won't give my home.
Sure,
I'll give my
that's-
phone.
That's also a valid point. So your phone or your piece of paper simply holds the key to log into the network and make those transactions.
Right.
But
Please don't say you're more confused. I'm hoping by now your confusions have to be solved.
I'm so confused right now because I'm just unable to understand that if anyone can just start his currency like that, being an individual, who's regulating this? Is there a regulatory
Now, I'll
body
ask you
here?
a question. We buy t-shirts.
Yeah.
Do all t-shirts cost the same?
No.
Okay. Why do we pay more for certain brands?
We perceive them to be different. We perceive them to
the
be high
same way.
value.
Exactly the same way. Anybody can start their own crypto, but people have to perceive it as valuable. So whereas a Bitcoin would be today valued at trillions, Ethereum hundreds of billions, there are so many which have virtually no value. So while you can start your own company, all companies don't become
Correct.
that powerful. And similarly, you can start your own crypto. If enough people don't believe in it, it doesn't become value.
But this is my point here is that currency has always been controlled
Actually,
by
currency is the
government.
wrong word.
Or
Bitcoin
let's
is the
say,
only one who said I'm a currency. New projects never call themselves currencies anymore. They say we are crypto assets,
all right,
crypto projects,
All understood.
just like shares of a company.
right.
These represent tokens are part of a crypto project which is trying to do something good. Like Ethereum doesn't say I'm a currency. It says I'm a utility coin. Use it to pay for gas when you use my digital network. So it's not like a typical currency in the real world. It's only for that network. Like if you've been to the Osho ashram in Pune, the moment you enter, you have to buy certain cards which have like 1, 2, 3 written on it.
Understood.
And then when you go into a coffee shop inside, they scratch that out.
Correct.
Why do they not accept rupees inside? Because not convenient. People could do some misuse. So at the entrance, you pay cash and you get that card.
You get like a token.
Can we not say that token is like the currency which works inside the ashram only?
But I understand that, but I understood the concept that, okay, the ashram is a private enterprise which is allowing...
Ethereum is a private blockchain. They say every transaction, pay my toll in Ethereum.
Correct, but currency, or sorry...
This is why I said don't use the word
Okay.
currency anymore.
So my question, I'll rephrase the question, that when I'm using something to exchange for commodities, buying something, I'm paying something, right, to them. Now that payment or whatever that mode of payment is initiated by your government. And the government controls it, and then there is inflation that affects it. There are so many factors that affect it. There are exchange rates coming into play when you're trading, across continents, etc. When you're traveling, you buy money at a different rate today, tomorrow it's different, etc. So those kind of things are there. But here, who is the regulatory body here? Like, for example, my question again is that a country like India, you have local banks, and you have a central bank, then you have the RBI. Then you have similarly countries would have that, and then there would be an IMF on top of that. There would be a World Bank, etc., who would be monitoring all these things and making sure and checking whether everything is right or wrong, or what's right, what's wrong over here. who's doing that for digital currencies or digital assets?
The technology. And that is where the uniqueness comes in. And I would be you'd be surprised to know, but there are countries whose currencies have been devalued billions of times.
Right.
Like on the internet, you can buy this $100 billion note. I'm not sure which African country it is, Zambia or Zimbabwe, one of them. That value of the currency fell so much that they started printing $100 billion notes. So is it right to say that governments are very good at running currencies? No,
Not at all.
We have enough examples of them going into free fall.
Venezuela.
Exactly. So why not trust a technology which is transparent, let that create limited numbers, and everybody in the world can verify that the numbers are limited. So a lot of people like youngsters today who belong more in the digital world than the physical world, they find that more convenient and more believable because for them everything is becoming digital. We are now a metaverse where you could wear these headsets and you immediately go into a different world.
Yeah.
That's the future of tourism. You don't have to physically trek to the Mount Everest anymore. You could just wear that headset and you're on top of the Mount
That
Everest.
would be so boring.
I would love that.
Do you ever...
Look at the ease. You wake up today and say, today I will go to Mount Everest, and 10 minutes later you're on Mount Everest. I would love that.
But do you ever see it becoming so interchangeable with reality that we won't know whether we are in reality?
I think we're already there.
Yeah, but not exactly what I'm talking about. Because now you are saying that if I can be in bed and in Mount Everest at the same time with that one headset. But will it be so blurred, the difference between the two, that I won't know if I'm actually in a simulation right now or that time?
Well, if you look at Elon Musk, he's actually said that we, the human race, is actually a simulation in a video game being played by very advanced aliens.
Yeah.
But that's what our Shastras also say.
Now, the question I asked you is, right now, are we in a simulation? We don't know.
We don't know.
So Metaverse just simply says, okay, you know what? I give you this simulation whenever you feel like it. And if you've used these, I'm sure you must have tried some of them. It's so realistic.
Yeah.
You look at some of the new movies that are coming out, the animation and graphics level are so realistic. It blurs the gap between reality. What is reality anymore?
So sorry again, but again, I'm coming back to the same thing that you mentioned about this, that, okay, digital assets can be started by anyone. Community comes in, they perceive that this has value. They start buying, selling, trading, whatever it is within that community. Governments, as you said in the past, are not known to be good keepers of money or to regulate that money. They keep on printing money, etc. Whereas here, these techs are saying that, okay, this is it. We're going to produce only this much. And that's why the perceived value keeps going up. I understood till there. Now, my next question is that what are governments saying about this kind of this thing? What is the Indian government doing about it? Because you were involved in rolling out some digital platform for the RBI.
So I was called upon to prepare a white paper on central bank digital currencies and NFTs for India. And I'm happy to see that CBDCs are now becoming a reality. So a CBDC, like, in fact, you may wonder, we already have UPI. Right. That means money is already digital. So What do you think CBDC, how is it adding value? Now, again, this goes back to a very fundamental thing. When you look at a UPI, where is your money actually being held? In a bank.
Correct.
When I transfer money to you, money moves from the private database of my bank to the private database of your bank. And the government doesn't even know this. They have to ask the bank who has how much balance. So if the government is trying to track down someone's assets, they actually need to talk to these banks and say who has how many assets. Now, what CBDC does is, the Reserve Bank of India, the central bank of our nation, has created its own blockchain platform. It is issuing INR on that platform itself without a bank being involved. Now, when people like you and me download a CBDC app and we use it to send money to each other, banks don't know about it anymore. The RBI knows every transaction.
But that's still a bank. Technically.
It's called a bank, but technically it's an entity of the government. It controls. So it's not a private bank.
Understood.
But at the end of the day, yes, a central bank is a bank, right? But with different functions. Now look at the beauty of what's happening. We have sovereign gold bonds also in India, which means as an Indian citizen, you open an account with RBI and you buy virtual gold. I'm sure you must have tried that or heard about it. Now CBDC is joining it. Soon, other assets can be on the same platform. So now let's say your house is on the same platform, your mutual funds are there, your gold is there. Now at 10 o'clock today morning, you have an EMI due, but you don't have cash. The system can sell off your house and pay the EMI.
That's scary then.
But it depends who you are. If you're the person claiming the EMI, that's the way it should be. If you're the person paying, it's scary for you because you can't default anymore. So CBDCs will stop these defaults. CBDCs will make your asset ownership totally transparent to the government. Now, if you look at China, they've already rolled out CBDC more than a year ago. And they can even put controls like you cannot spend more than 20% of your money on alcohol. You cannot spend more than 30% outside your base home city.
But that is my right. I can spend it however I want.
Now, that's a very good question which starts to come up. Who says that's your right? Who will define that? The government.
Yeah.
So if the government says, no, I can choose this for you and I make a law, khatam, your right is over. So in fact, you could say, why does the government censor movies? I'm an adult, I'm an educated person. Why can't I decide what I want to see? But no, the government says there is a law under which every movie can be censored. Some countries don't allow that, some do.
Yeah.
So similarly, what is your right and what is not your right is defined by law. And in China, their laws are different. So just like what China is doing with CBDC, it could roll into other countries also. So some people feel it's a good thing. Some people are very scared of that. Only time will tell how it actually rolls out.
So again, Rohas ji, I am coming back again and again and again because
Please don't use the word confused.
Okay, I am less confused. All right. So my question here is that today, let's say there is a company that comes into India and announces that, okay, we are going to be manufacturing shoes and everyone buys shares in them. And, they come out with an IPO, I buy shares in them, etc. And the company goes bust. I lose all my money. There are a lot of people who have not been paid by that company in terms of raw material supplies, in terms of labor, in terms of that. They can go to a physical court or they can go to any regulatory body, file cases, file injunctions, etc. And that regulatory body can dispose of the assets of that company and pay off everyone in equal proportion and at least get them back something. Now, similarly, if I switch this question to, or if I swap this scenario to a odd coin, let's say I come out with an odd coin and I start selling all these odd coins to you all, to people like yourselves, and I build a community and I'm successful. After a year, the value of each odd coin has also gone up. And then one fine day, I decide that, hey, listen, I'm done with this. These guys bought the odd coin. I've not given them anything physical in exchange. Everything is on a digital platform. I'll just vanish one day with all this money that I've collected from them for buying my odd coins, and I'm gone. Who do they go to then to get their money back?
The same courts, the same police. Because when we look at these laws, they're not defined to cover only fixed assets. Like tomorrow I could pay someone for a t-shirt and he doesn't give me the t-shirt. I can go to the same laws. Same thing. So whether it is a crypto, whether it is currency, or whether it is a t-shirt, whether it is anything, the laws remain the same in case somebody cons you. Now, when you look at the stock market, is there any guarantee of returns?
No.
You put your money into Paytm IPO, for example, and then the value of the shares kept falling and kept falling. Then recently RBI passed something negative, their value fell more. But does that mean that the promoters of Paytm were trying to con you? No, that's business. There was a standard risk. Now, similarly, when you look at crypto projects, unless it's an out-and-out scam, what we call as rug pulls and all that, that's a different thing. But genuinely, the guys tried his best and the project kind of didn't work. Well, that's a business risk everybody takes. Another very interesting thing is nowadays, a lot of these projects are owned by DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations. You actually own the project. So for example, Uniswap is a very famous example of a $10 billion plus crypto project. As a DAO member, you actually own the project. So it doesn't matter if some people leave and go away. Just like in a company, new directors can come in. In Uniswap, new people can run that project.
Right.
And all those assets are owned by the project holders or the token holder. So Wyoming is a very innovative state in the US, which has made multiple laws around this. In fact, they are the first in the world to legally recognize a DAO as a limited liability company.
Okay.
So projects can register like that. I would say the crypto capital of the world is Dubai. They've got an extensive series of laws governing everything about cryptocurrencies. You can get a legally licensed project, cryptocurrencies, exchanges. Japan is another very good one. The US, especially Wyoming and some other states, they are coming out with laws. The government of India is coming out with laws. In fact, we have the IFSCA in the gift city Gandhinagar, which is very proactive and is allowing experimentation with blockchain and cryptocurrencies to happen. So world over, we are moving in that direction. There are 2 countries which have accepted a cryptocurrency as legal tender.
Really?
El Salvador and Central African Republic recognize Bitcoin as legal tender, which is the highest level you could give something. So the world is adopting this very fast.
So, which brings me to another question related to this, where 2-3 years back, I remember there were ads on television on IPL, कि 100 रुपए में Bitcoin खरीद लो, and the government panicked. Why?
Yeah, because you are now telling the common man who does not understand tech to buy and hold Bitcoin. I'm a tech guy and I deleted my private keys. Imagine a non-tech savvy person wouldn't even know how to keep his Bitcoin safe. And yes, Bitcoin fluctuates a lot. So I think that was a wrong move by the exchanges. I think they got too greedy and they tried to hit at the common man who doesn't understand this. See, the government also says as long as you are providing this to the rich people or the savvy people who know what to do and who can handle the loss, it's fine. But don't get to the common man. The government has to protect that illiterate person. And that illiterate person shouldn't get fooled by dreams of becoming a millionaire or buying 100 rupee Bitcoin. And that is why the crackdown really happened. I say 99% people should not buy cryptocurrencies. Even if you're a rich person, please don't buy it unless firstly, you are technologically savvy enough to even hold on to it. And then secondly, be financially savvy to understand what's happening. Don't just follow the craze. I would say crypto should not be looked at by 99.9% people. It's that 0.1% people who should be currently doing it.
So, since we're speaking of so many intricacies in the legality of cryptocurrency and blockchain technology, I would love to hear your opinion on what the layman should know about Sam Bankman-Fried and his entire operation, and also your personal take on it.
So now what this gentleman did was he set up an exchange called FTX, very popular exchange. A lot of people had put money. Now, what is the job of an exchange? It is not to play around with your money. It's not a mutual fund. It is to hold your money and allow you to do transactions. But he started to misuse that money and started in gambling on the stock market. And when prices fell, he ended up booking a huge loss, but it wasn't his money to begin with. It was the investors' money. Kind of like a Bombay Stock Exchange or the depositories in India, they start using your money to gamble on the stock market. That's kind of what he did. Now, when he was caught, a lot of money has been recovered. Billions have been recovered because the assets are still there, even though they may have lost value.
Yeah.
So now those assets are being auctioned and people are being paid back. In fact, before him, an exchange called Mt. Gox was there many years ago, which was even bigger. And the owner did some kind of frauds there also, but a lot of people have actually now beginning to get back their money. So what FTX was just an example of exchange holder becoming greedy, misusing people's money and ending up gambling and losing it. So what you need to remember, it happens everywhere. We've had people who have done scams around diamonds and then they ran away to another country.
Yeah.
So scams and scamsters are there everywhere. It happens in the conventional world. It happens in the crypto world also.
Right. So, since we spoke about the volatility rates in cryptocurrency, I would love to hear your thoughts on the differences in analysis in the share
Very
market
good question.
versus the crypto.
Sure. So in the stock markets, you have things like EPS, earning per share, and P by E ratio. In our world, we talk about TVL, which is total value locked. We talk about other metrics like 24-hour volume and volume by market cap. So the metrics change. So yes, there's a lot of study that can go into that. But there's one fundamental difference. Usually when you're buying into a company, you get ownership. So even if you buy one share of Reliance, you are a part owner of Reliance. In the crypto world, all projects are not like that. So if you go into Bitcoin and you buy as many Bitcoin as you want, you don't own the project. Bitcoin is run by the people who run the nodes. They are the real owners. But anybody can become that. So you can buy nodes and you can start mining. By buying Bitcoin, you don't become owner of the Bitcoin network. You become owner of the network by running nodes. Some projects are DAOs. So if you buy token of the DAO, you actually become owner of the project.
Right.
So whenever you're thinking of investing into a project, understand this. Ye project hai kya? Like if it's a meme coin, you can't own it. You're owning coins, but you're not owning a project.
Right.
But if it's a DAO, you could actually end up owning the project. So study in that.
Okay. So when I was in 11th standard, I heard a lot of stories from my classmates where they were saying that the classmate sold his bicycle to put some money into Bitcoin, and I'm pretty sure that most of them had some idea as compared to other people what they were doing, but not the entirety of it. So how exactly do you gain knowledge based on everything, not just the analysis, the legalities, the governmental prospects of cryptocurrency? Because there's no books as such on it.
Well, I've written 2 books that you could read in that.
Okay.
So one is called the Blockchain Engineering Playbook. So if you want to learn that, it's a free ebook. You can download it from my site.
Okay.
You can read that. If you want to understand the financial part, look at the Tokenization Playbook.
Okay.
Like me, there are other people who have written a lot of blogs and articles and all that. So you can definitely start reading up on that. There are a lot of apps that you can use. Or if you sign up for any crypto exchange, they've also prepared a lot of reading material.
Yeah.
So you will get a lot of this information online and you can start to learn. So even these kids of your friends of yours who sold their bicycle, I'm sure their money must have really grown. Because over the last few years, Bitcoin's really grown multiple times. So probably they did understand the basics of what was going on. But you don't need to go too deep into it also.
Okay.
Like, I mean, when you're investing in the stock market, you could be investing in a bank, an IT company, a toothpaste manufacturer, but you don't need to understand their business in depth.
Right.
You need to briefly understand, okay, does their business model make sense? So maybe they realize that, okay, fundamentally, Bitcoin makes sense. I may not understand the tech, but I understand the logic behind it. That is also enough. Understand what the project is doing. Right. It should make sense to you.
So if I'm a value investor in the stock market and I believe in fundamental analysis, like you said, I don't want to go too deep into it and go into all the weird ratios and charts and all. And I say that I want to put some money in the crypto market, whichever one that may be. What exactly is your very just advice to that? How exactly do I learn?
So I would say if you want to get in and you know absolutely nothing, then just look at two projects, Bitcoin and Ethereum. So they're kind of like the base, right? So chances of them going down are extremely low. 100% to my guarantee nahi de sakta hu, but that's. Second is, remember, you can only make money in a project before the world gets to know about it. Because once that project is known to the whole world, uski value already बढ़ गई है. You can't make more money. So if you're looking at those 10x, 20x, 100x kind of growth, then invest in projects where you know the founders and you know the project is not known by the world yet. It's still coming up. And in the next 3 to 6 months, it's likely to blow up. So try to get into that. And remember, in crypto, I usually don't like to use the word investing.
Okay.
And long term, though, I would never use the word. See, crypto itself is very new. I mean, it's just 2000.
It's in its infancy stage.
It's in the infancy. So long term, mat dekho. If you are getting in, please monitor on a daily basis.
Okay.
What's happening.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about the environmental aspects of this. Since you spoke in, when we were talking about NFT, you spoke about the gas fees. How exactly does this impact the environment? Good
question. So now certain cryptos like Bitcoin use something called proof of work, which requires people to run powerful computers, which naturally consume a lot of electricity. But singling out Bitcoin for the world's climate change is not fair. You look at a bank, they've got hundreds and thousands of employees working in air-conditioned offices, taking private planes around the world. Don't they waste electricity or don't they consume electricity?
Definitely.
So I think that's just a narrative trying to prove Bitcoin is a bad thing for the world. But no, everything we do consumes electricity. The food we eat has also consumed so much. You're in that business. So when you transport things in a cold environment, are you not consuming energy?
Absolutely. We're consuming a lot of fuel.
That's the way humans are, right? Everything we do consumes energy. So yes, Bitcoin does consume energy, but I think it's like any other project.
How exactly? Can you go a little bit into the details?
Sure. So what happens is, because we use proof of work and we need to use powerful computers to crack this mathematical problem, the more powerful your computer, the more the chances that you will crack it.
Okay.
And to make it more powerful, you need to buy more CPUs. Each CPU consumes more electricity. Then you need electricity to cool the computers down, which is why most of these mines are located in cold countries, where at least the heating is taken care of by nature.
Right.
But because you need more power to do it, it consumes more energy, which is why a lot of projects, including Ethereum, which was earlier proof of work, has now moved on to something called proof of stake. The energy consumption is not even 1%.
Which is why I will now ask you about the role of quantum computing in cryptocurrency.
So see, the fear from quantum is that you will have super powerful computers that will crack these keys very fast. So I told you I lost my private keys.
Yes.
Quantum computing could help me regenerate those. But the point is, it'll help anyone regenerate any key.
So there's security issues.
Now, and it's not just to crypto. Today, the whole world runs on encryption.
Yes.
Governments around the world use it. Militaries use it. When you and I use online payment, have you noticed a small lock?
Yes.
That's called SSL. Secure Socket Layer.
Secure key.
That's encryption. So quantum computing would break all that encryption. But I'm sure by the time that becomes a reality, our algorithms would also have evolved.
Right.
Like in the past, we used to use a hash function called MD2. Then people said it's weak. They broke it. It went to MD5. Somebody broke it. We went to SHA1. Somebody broke it. We went to SHA2. In future, someone will break that. We'll move on to the next. I'm sure by the time quantum computing becomes a reality, our algorithms also would have evolved.
So since we spoke about computers with some reference to cryptocurrency, there was a bit of a topic that came up some years back, which was Web 3.0. I saw a small post again on the internet explaining it in very simple language that Web 1.0 was basically enter your username, enter your password, and log into some Instagram or something. Web 2.0 was logging with Facebook, Google, or something like that. And Web 3.0 means connect your wallet. How true is this, and what are your thoughts on what Web 3.0 actually is?
So Web 3.0 is like a term which covers the modern internet with blockchain and all these new technologies as part of it.
Okay.
So if you look at it from a tech point of view, we have, when you say login using a wallet, so what it basically means is instead of having your credentials with a third party social media platform, you keep it in a software called a wallet. For example, MetaMask is a very popular wallet, which is installed in your browser. And whenever you want to log into a site, they don't even know your name. They simply know your crypto address. And based on that, they can't figure out who you are. So your privacy can be maintained. Having said that, Web3 also offers a lot of career opportunities to youngsters today, especially in tech countries like India. So, I would strongly recommend if you want to get into Web3 as a career, then learn about the basic two blockchain platforms first. That's Bitcoin and Ethereum. And then you could learn a programming language like Solidity, start developing smart contracts. And it's a very good area in which youngsters can today make their careers.
So, Rohas ji, I had another question. Of late, we've been hearing a lot about this place called Gift City, which is being built somewhere in Gujarat. And where I understand that there is no jurisdiction of RBI, SEBI, any other of these government regulatory bodies out there. So what's happening out there, and can you tell us something about it, and what's your role there?
So we could actually divide India into two parts, Gift City and the rest of India. Now in the rest of India, we have 4 regulators. Reserve Bank of India for the banking sector, Securities Exchange Board of India or SEBI for the securities market, IRDA for the insurance market, and PFRDA for the pension funds. In Gift City, the power of all these 4 regulators is with one new regulator called the IFSC-A or the IFSC Authority. The purpose here is to come out with innovative financial use cases for which there may not be a legal framework in the rest of India. So here they can come out with new legal frameworks. In fact, one of the first industries to move there was aircraft leasing. Now, that was an industry that didn't exist in India. It was there in some other countries. It's actually moved there in a big way. So such kind of innovative financial use cases are being supported there. In fact, when we do transactions there, we can't even use the rupee. We have to use convertible currencies like the dollar. There, they've set up a sandbox, which is, a sandbox is like a test environment where the regulator says, okay, what you want to do may not be clearly defined by the existing laws. So I will give you a legal exemption to try something under my supervision. If I like what you're doing, I give you full permission.
And I'll regulate it.
I'll regulate it. So my project, the hybrid finance blockchain or the HiFi blockchain, where we are tokenizing different assets and putting them on the blockchain and making them available to people in fractions. So we are part of one of those sandboxes. In fact, JP Morgan is also there in that same sandbox, and they are testing out dollar-based stable coins. So I think that's a very innovative new thing which has happened in India. And in the future, India could be a global leader in blockchain based on Gift City.
That's insane.
Yeah, it is. It's very, very useful.
Okay.
In fact, I'd like to add here, a friend of mine, he's made a building in Gift City. Then he converted the ownership of that building into a REIT, a real estate trust, and then tokenized it on the blockchain and sold it off.
Oh.
So it's one of the world's first examples of a big piece of real estate actually being traded on the blockchain.
Something tangible.
Tangible, yeah.
So, sir, since you're also into cybercrime investigation, what is the oddest case you've cracked into this?
Okay, so most of the cases I'm not able to unfortunately speak about, but yeah, there's one interesting case I'd like to tell you about. So there was this young girl who started getting these very weird emails of someone like stalking her, and he would say, today I saw you wearing these clothes, I saw you on this road. And he made a lot of very rude and very lewd kind of statements in that. And she got very scared because somebody's watching her on a daily basis. So she went to the police and she said, this is what is happening. So now they took in the email header and they realized that, okay, the emails coming to her don't seem to be coming from India. So it's very difficult to do anything. So we were asked to help in this case. So what we did was we sent out tracking emails. There are certain emails that you can use a service and send that when someone opens the email, you come to know where they have opened it from.
Okay.
So we started sending out regular emails to that address, some very spam sounding emails which we thought he would click on. Now, every time it would keep opening from the US. And one fine day, we realized that the email was opened from the city where the girl was. I'm not mentioning the name of the city. So we realized that this guy is here also. Then we tracked it down to a software company. So we asked the girl, do you know this software company? She said, yeah, I used to work in that company. So we said, okay, obviously somebody there is doing it. So then we went to that company and kind of raided it, right? Now, in such cases, you have to remember the evidence can be deleted very fast. So whatever you're doing, you need to finish within an hour or so. Now, when you enter a software company, there are hundreds of people sitting there. Now, what do you do? If I'll ask you this question, suppose you were in my place and you enter this software company and there are hundreds of employees, each with their own laptop. What do you do? Who do you start checking? Because checking a laptop takes a very long time. What would you do?
I don't have that kind of experience, but based on the since you spoke about the technology, I would kind of try to use that and track the IP address from where it came
IP
from.
address se to we reach the company.
Okay.
But now there are hundreds of employees. Who do you suspect first?
Very difficult to answer.
Very different. Yeah.
बुड्ढे को पकड़ो.
अच्छा.
Yeah. My logic in life is very simple. कुछ गड़बड़ होती है पहले बुड्ढे को पकड़ो. Yeah, sorry to say this, but most of the cands in the world are done by old men. I'm also kind of an old man, so I can tell you, but usually they do it. So I went and caught the oldest guy there who was the CEO. बोला बाकी छोड़ दो सबको, इसका लैपटॉप पकड़ के. I immediately added a forensic software and started scanning the disk, and instantly it showed me that that particular email, जहाँ से वो गंदे emails आ रहे थे, was opened hundreds of times on his laptop. But I also realized
But then you got lucky there, I would say.
Investigation,
I mean, it was a hunch.
Investigation is always about luck because there are too many possibilities. If luck doesn't side you, आप सालों साल लगे रहोगे.
Yeah, then it will be just a circle.
Yeah. So then I realized, but ठीक है, even if I go to the court with this evidence, court is not going to really rely on it too much. What are you saying? Some email ID lying in some hidden deleted files won't work. So I said, but चलो कुछ तो मिला. Then I asked that gentleman. He was obviously scared. So I said, यार, how many email accounts do you have? So he told me 3. 2 official, 1 personal. I said, अच्छा ठीक है. Passwords क्या हैं? He wrote his passwords down. And I realized all the 3 passwords were the same.
Oh.
So I said, let's try. वो जिस account से the dirty emails are coming, does the same password work? And when we tried it, it opened. So now you have like pretty solid evidence because the password is also weird. And then once we got into that email, we had enough physical evidence to link it to this person. And then we went to the court with all the details. And then, of course, the whole investigation process officially started off. So I would say that was very interesting in multiple ways. People need to understand whatever you do on the internet, 99% you can be tracked.
Okay. Before we move ahead, I just have one very small but simple question that has confused a lot of people, I'd say, regarding certain messages that I sent. For example, if I put something on the internet, I believe it's there forever. But a lot of people think that if I send you some sort of message and I delete it, it's gone. Can you give some insight into that?
So when you put something on the internet, like you on any website, in fact, there are sites like archive.org, which have multiple versions of every website in the world, day-wise, from maybe 10, 15 years ago, which are archived with them. So that's one repository where you find data. But when you use third-party like messaging apps, data is with them. No matter what they tell you, they do not delete that data. Because that data is their biggest asset. So you may think I have deleted my chats, but they're still lying somewhere. Sometimes they're lying on your phone in some archive area. Sometimes they're lying with their servers. But in due time, if it is important enough, it can be recovered.
Okay.
So we have to be very careful.
That's why I'm old school and I try and use kabutars for communication rather than, sending emails and all that, because this is really scary. What I've heard today, what all can happen. Which brings me to my final question here, sir, is that since you're talking about cybersecurity, and most people my age at least have not grown up with a smartphone. So most of us are a little less tech savvy than, his generation, etc. My question here is that what is your advice to people in general on how to keep their digital assets, digital network, digital privacy safe, especially given the speed at which we are going on to these digital platforms? In, money transactions, in terms of your business transactions, everything is being done digitally nowadays. What's the safety aspect here? What's your message to everyone?
So one is keep good passwords. And you know what? It's very easy. So suppose this is your favorite book. Not only you know which is your favorite book. What's your favorite number?
I can't tell it on the show.
Okay. So let's say your favorite number is 76. Open page 76 of the book. Take the first sentence. That's your password.
Okay.
Type it in with the small letters, big letters, gaps inside. It is one of the world's toughest passwords. And you will always remember page 76 of whatever is your favorite book. So just use that and make sure it is a book that you will always be able to access. Digital copy rakh lo uska kahin.
Correct.
So that's one way of keeping a password. Keep your 2-factor on. so that whenever you're logging in, you get an OTP on your phone. So that kind of is the maximum that you can do. Usse zyada bhi agar hack ho jayega, there's not much you can do. But these are two very important things. And the third thing to remember is when you are clicking a link, 1000 problems start because you click on the wrong link. Now you have to realize that anybody can send you a fake email. You give me your email ID and I will send an email from it. Right now, it's a 10-line PHP code that anybody can make, and they can send emails from anybody's account. So I can send an email from your account to him, and he may think, oh, it's my dad's email, and he clicks on a link in that. That's how the hacker gets it. This is called phishing. 20 plus years ago, when I got into the field, I would warn people about it. 20 years later, I'm still saying the exact same thing. Please don't randomly trust email. And the same thing happens in messages. You know, people can send you fake SMSs, fake WhatsApp messages. It'll look as if it's coming from someone you know, but it's fake.
So how do I know?
Don't click links because it's very difficult to know. Link mein mat click karo. So if you get a message which has a link for you to click, unless you are 100% sure that's correct, don't click on the link. Because when you click on the link, you don't realize what all can happen. A malware can get downloaded into your system, and it doesn't matter which operating system you use. Yes, Apple is much more secure because it uses the Darwin Unix. So Unix is definitely much more secure, but hack to kuch bhi ho sakta hai. Links is where the problem begins.
I thought that would be my last question, but now the answer that you've given brings me to another final last question, which is that let's say I get hacked, or let's say something like this happens. I clicked on some link, or anyone clicks on a link and they get hacked and all. What's the remedy here? Then what do they do? Where do they go?
Sure. So now it depends on what's happened. So if you've lost money, your account is hacked, go to the police and file the case, and then they can actually freeze the money because the money is moving through the banking system.
Right.
It can be frozen. You can get most of it back. So immediately report it. Now suppose personal photographs are stolen. That happens a lot nowadays. In fact, here's something I like to tell the youngsters. When two youngsters are in a relationship, they may exchange nude pics. What they don't realize is once the relationship breaks, the person with the pics can
Use it as a blackmail
That do
material.
a lot.
Yeah, in fact, that's called revenge porn. Now, if something like this happens where your files are stolen, immediately again report it to the police and tell them who you suspect could have done that. And chances are you may be able to get those photos back before they're put onto the internet.
But then it's registered as a cyber crime, right?
Cybercrime.
So you go to the
could even
police.
go online. In fact, you could go to cybercrime.gov.in. It's a website run by the government of India, and it's the simplest way to register your case. You don't even need to physically go to a police station. Go to cybercrime.gov.in, select the drop downs, add your entire complaint there, and submit it.
It's that simple.
It's that simple.
All right. So I guess this has been a fabulous episode. Thank you so much for coming here and enlightening us on so much of stuff. Honestly, I am a little bit more confused now than I was at the start of the episode, but now you've given me a direction to deep dive into it. And since we have access to your mobile phone number now, we are going to be bothering you with a lot of questions and answers for our personal information, because this is something that I really want to understand. And I hope our viewers have taken notice of the do's and don'ts of being in this digital world. And I hope that this is beneficial to everyone. Thank you so much. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you.